Interviews with the best in their fields, teaching you how to excel in careers that don't require traditional college. You're listening to the College Alternative Podcast. Insider tips and advice, straight from the experts. And now, here is your host, James Christian.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for checking us out at the College Alternative Podcast. Today, we're going to be interviewing Dylan Jones. He works for the National Park Service as a law enforcement ranger. So today, he's going to be talking about his day-to-day activities, all the training he gets, all the training he has gone through, such as FLETC, seasonal training, and he's going to tell you how you can get hired as a law enforcement ranger. So stay tuned and keep listening. Thanks. Hello and welcome to the College Alternative Podcast, the podcast that shows you how to excel in careers that don't require traditional college. Today, we have with us Dylan Jones, who's a park ranger for the National Park Service. Hey, Dylan.
Hi, how are you, James?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Hey, why don't you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself and your background.
Excellent. My name's Dylan Jones. Like James said, I'm a National Park Ranger. So I work for the National Park Service, an agency within the Department of Interior for the United States. Pretty interesting job, so I'll tell you a little bit how I got into it. I was in college. I do have a degree in outdoor recreation, and kind of a degree that was more along an interest in my life, not necessarily just because I felt like I needed a college degree. And it related a lot to sciences in natural resource management and studies with recreational management, so people who come to use lands to have fun, have a good time. So I kind of decided that it was the National Park Service I wanted to work for, kind of had a mission that fell in line with my personal beliefs. So in 2008, I got a job for the National Park Service as an interpretive park ranger, and that's kind of not what it sounds like. It's kind of odd, but an interpretive park ranger actually interprets the natural resources to the public. So the people who give programs at campgrounds or little guided hikes and tours, that's what I was doing. So I started that in 2008, and in 2009 decided I wanted to go into law enforcement and work for the Division of Visitor and Resources Protection within the National Park Service. So I put myself through a seasonal academy and was seasonal for a little bit, and then in 2010 I got picked up as a seasonal hire, and then in 2012 I was hired permanently. So I got a little bit of experience with the Park Service doing a variety of things.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and we definitely want to dive into all these different things because it's maybe not as intuitive, especially with some of these job titles, what they all are or how to get hired for specifically your job. But as a park ranger, law enforcement park ranger right now, can you kind of describe some of your job duties that you have day to day?
Sure. So on a day-to-day basis, overall I work for, like I said, the Division of Visitor and Resource Protection. So technically I'm a protection ranger. So that kind of encompasses a large set of responsibilities, not just law enforcement. So I do everything from law enforcement to emergency medical services and search and rescue also, and occasionally do some firefighting. So a little bit of wildland fire work, and depending on the park, even some structure fire work. So it's pretty diverse, broad set of skills that we need to have. So it can be pretty exciting. But generally, if you put my job into sort of three main goals, protection ranger, or sometimes we just get referred to as law enforcement rangers, we do three things. We protect our national parks from people who visit them. We also protect the people who visit the parks, so we protect the park from the people, and we protect people from other people who visit the parks. So those are the three main things that we try to accomplish on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, don't get too close to that grizzly bear.
Exactly. A lot of people get way too out of their element when they come to a national park. So one of our goals is to kind of like let them know where it's safe to be and what's a safe activity to do. Because some people just don't know, you know, they've never been to a place with a grizzly bear. They think it's okay to go put their kid on it, you know, and that's not all right all the time. So, you know, we want everyone to be able to leave in the same condition they came in, and we want the park to be in the same condition when people came to visit it, so the next people can see.
Yeah, I think that's big, because you think, like Yellowstone. I mean, it's a natural wonder out there that we have here in the United States. But I mean, if everybody starts tossing coins or trash into them, I mean, don't you guys regularly have cleanups with some of those geysers out there? Just to clean the trash?
I mean, you have places with these little iconic features, you know, especially like the geysers in Yellowstone. Some of the more famous ones with the boardwalks, you find stuff like that. Somebody will throw garbage in it, or you know, coins in it. Or even stuff that's not as intentional, you know, like their hat will blow off their head and just land in the geyser. So I mean, there's some cleanup efforts that have to happen to kind of keep these things pristine and natural.
Yeah. So, does your job duty depend and vary depending upon the park that you decide to go to, or is it pretty much general across the board?
Definitely. You know, if you have a particular skill set you like to focus in, you know, within the law enforcement, EMS, search and rescue, firefighting, you know, we have over 400 national park sites in the United States. So each of them kind of has its own issues that you can focus on. So you go to somewhere like the Grand Canyon, they're a pretty search and rescue intensive park. So if you really want to get into search and rescue opportunities, that's a good place to go. There are other places where it's a lot more law enforcement intensive. You know, if they're in more urban settings, that tends to bring a little more law enforcement issues. So if that's the work you prefer to do, then you can go there as well. So
that sounds pretty cool. So it sounds like for you guys, it's a little bit of a unique process as far as seasonal hire than permanent hire and everything like that. But I would see one pro to being seasonally hired is that you can kind of test out parks to see which ones you kind of like, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's probably one of the greatest advantages of being seasonal is you get to move around. You know, it's weird at the same time because you're only hired for a certain amount of time and you like lose your job, right? And you're trying to find another job at a different park. But it kind of forces you into those opportunities of seeing the different parks and finding your niche. You know, what do you enjoy most about the job? And then when you're looking for your permanent job, you kind of have an idea of what you want in a permanent park. If you're going to be somewhere 3, 4, 5 years, or your whole career, if you want.
But it's not necessarily the case where it's going to be that difficult to transfer from a seasonal park job to a permanent law enforcement, or is it kind of difficult to be able to do that transition, or is it fairly simple to flow from one to the other?
Yeah, to go from seasonal to permanent.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a difficult process. Not technically difficult, but we have a lot of people who want to work for the National Park Service. So when people apply for a permanent job, you're competing with people who generally have quite a bit of experience, and you're falling somewhere in that line of those people. So you know, it takes time to kind of get higher up on those lists where people can see your skill sets over others. You know, and that's where making sure you're doing a good job and you're performing well as a seasonal will really help you out when you're looking for that permanent job.
Yeah, you guys only have what, like 1,500 law enforcement rangers or something?
It's something like that. Yeah, I mean, nationwide, we're sitting around those numbers. So.
Yeah, so your reputation goes pretty quick around the parks, right?
Yeah. I mean, some people might say that's a lot of people to know, but we're actually a pretty small agency in the government, and you can make a good or bad name for yourself really quick. So how you carry yourself and how you do your job can go a long way.
Good and bad. I mean, if you're known as a good worker, right? I mean, you're going to get hired. You're going to get hired, and you're going to have a good reputation, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you guys get to be cops in some beautiful places around the United States, and you get to wear a ton of different hats, and we're going to talk all about that here pretty soon. I could imagine most of you guys are pretty happy with your job right now, especially in law enforcement, especially kind of considering some of the issues we're having with law enforcement in the United States, and so much additional stuff that they have to deal with right now. You guys kind of maybe get to avoid that a little bit, and you guys get to do what you love, right?
Yeah, I definitely get to enjoy my job. There aren't many days where I come home and I was like, today was a day I didn't like. That's not to say I don't have long days and I don't have hard days, but most of the time I had a day that I learned something new. I got to have a new challenge, and I'm a better person for it, and I'm a better employee for it. So it's exciting when you can say that about your job. So.
Yeah. So let's kind of dive into some of the other additional duties that you guys have. So obviously you're, pulling over speeders in the park, you're writing tickets, that sort of stuff, breaking up rowdy campers.
Yeah.
Lake Mead.
Yeah. So a lot of the law enforcement work we do is really similar to that in a city, or what I compare us to mostly is like a rural county deputy. We do a lot of similar work that they do because in a way we have some of the same responsibilities, particularly when it comes to law enforcement. Yeah. So we go break up fights. We try to keep drunk drivers off the road. We have a lot of traffic fatalities and injuries, so we do traffic enforcement. So we have quite the gamut of law enforcement responsibilities, and a lot of people don't realize that.
But I think the other cool thing is you guys get to do a ton of other different duties in your line of work, right? So let's talk about search and rescue. So you were talking about Grand Canyon being a huge one. I could see Denali being a big one too for search and rescue. So how do you get into search and rescue? Is it something that you apply for, or is it just sort of given to you and you get additional training, or can you really focus in on it?
Yeah, so search and rescue is probably one of those skills that we have where there's very few certifications, even nationally recognized certifications. So a lot of the programs are sort of homegrown. There are some things that we do in our agency, like you've got to have low angle rescue, high angle rescue, if you're going to do those types of operations. And just to make sure you're using the right types of ropes and nuts and equipment so you don't drop somebody off of a cliff, because
that would be bad.
That would be bad, right? That's a bad career move. So we do have some advanced search and rescue trainings, but really the lower level stuff is on the job training. So, if somebody trips and breaks their ankle on a trail and you've got to be a part of a search and rescue team to go get them, the process to do that's not too terribly difficult, but if you've never done it before, you're going to be out of the loop. Knowing how to put together a litter basket and, package a patient in this basket and be part of a team that carries the basket out. There's some things there that you need to know, but really there's not a little card that you hold up that says, I know how to be on a litter team. So a lot of that comes down to experience, which is why when you're getting a job from the National Park Service, networking is so important. Even if it's not in the National Park Service, doing little things where you can get some search and rescue experience mean a lot, whether that's for the Park Service or volunteering for your local sheriff's department.
Awesome. Yeah, litter carry is probably one of the most labor worst job things. It takes 3 hours to go 2 miles.
Yeah, it's a pretty miserable experience if you've been on some longer ones, or they're in the middle of the night and they're never in a convenient location. So,
and it's never the 80-pound, girl that you have to.
Right. It's usually somebody who maybe shouldn't have been there to begin with. That's the case a lot of times, and that's okay. That's just part of what we do. Someday I might be there. I might be the guy who fell and broke my ankle, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've done this. So I try not to give people a hard time or anything about it because I'm very well aware of the fact that it can be me someday.
So will the Park Service send you to additional training, more advanced rope work, high angle, low angle rescue classes?
Yeah, so if you're working at places where you have those needs, they're going to try to get you certified as they have those needs for rangers to have those skills. So.
That's actually really cool, because I know a lot of like sheriff offices, they'll have search and rescue, but it takes years to get on that sort of detail. I mean, you guys pretty much get it handed to you right from the bat. I mean, day one you could be helping out.
Right.
Something. Yeah,
and and that's to step back to we're talking about seasonal work. That's what's great about the seasonal program is you do get the opportunities to learn stuff on the job. Even if you're brand new, you're going to have another ranger who's got a little more experience with you to grab you and say, come on, we're going to go do this. So that can be pretty exciting.
Yeah, push you into new experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty cool too. I mean, I'm always of the mindset of, if you are scared to do something, try something new out. You probably should attack that and learn it.
Yeah.
So going from search and rescue, what about EMS? So is pretty much everybody who's a law enforcement ranger, are they all certified at minimally as EMTs then?
I would say most law enforcement rangers are EMTs. Not all of us are, because not all ranger positions require EMT. Sometimes you're in an area where a local ambulance company is close enough by where you don't need EMTs. But generally speaking, most rangers are EMTs at least. We do have a Paramedic program, which is sort of somewhere between like EMT and paramedic, but it has a lot of wilderness skills tagged into it. So they can push medications similar to what a paramedic would do, but it's in settings that are nowhere near, hospitals and that sort of thing. So sort of these advanced medical cares that we provide in some pretty extreme environments. So that's what that program is for, and it's unique to us that we have something like that.
And is it hard to get into that program? I'm assuming you apply.
Yeah, that's a bit more elite. It's not a training that's offered very often, and the park that you're at needs to sponsor you in order for you to get in. So you've already got to be working for the agency. You're typically already going to be permanent. You're going to be on for a few years. You're going to have to demonstrate really good skills as an EMT, and the park's going to have a need for a paramedic. So, and then when there's a class, you can apply to get in. So it can be it could be a while if it's something you want to get.
But I mean, it is available. I mean, it's
available.
Not just something that they dangle in front of you. You actually can have a shot at getting something like that.
And again, that's one of those deals where you need to be, if EMS is one of those hats you really like to wear a lot as a protection ranger, you need to learn everything you can about being an EMT and even start thinking like a paramedic, thinking above the level of an EMT, even though you can't perform above that level. And that's going to get you the recognition you need to get you to that next step.
I always think that austere paramedics are pretty badass. I mean, you're basically alone by yourself doing one step below surgery almost. You're pushing drugs. You're keeping this guy alive on a snowy glacier somewhere. Waiting for additional resources. It's not like you just have a box ambulance.
Sure.
Waiting for you.
Sure. I remember one of my early rescues came through a 911 call in a place where I don't even know how or why this guy was able to get a call out on his phone. And he was basically on the brink of death by the time we found him. He was curled up under a rock. It was almost luck that we got to him in time. And I got there first, and then we had a park medic show up behind me, and we're in our Dodge Ranger pickup truck, everything in the back seat's been pulled out. He's laid across the back seat, and we're bouncing down this awful I wouldn't even say a dirt road. It's more like a large rock road, so we're basically like rock crawling over this road, and with this guy who's almost dead in the back seat, and he's got like, needles in both arms where he's getting all the drugs he needs from the park medic who's like hovering over him in the back seat. Not an ambulance setting, not a hospital setting. It's we're just trying to keep this guy alive so we can get him to the road, the real road. So pretty wild experiences, just things you kind of wouldn't expect to see.
But I'm sure it's all very, very, very rewarding though when you're able to push that guy off onto the medevac or the ambulance and he's still alive. I mean, that must be something.
Yeah, it's great.
So let's move on to fire. So you're mentioning wilderness and also structure fires as well. So is that just something you apply for, or you get training for that when you go through your 7-month-long training academy?
Yeah. So with wildland fire, that's a program now that more and more you're seeing be offered with the seasonal training programs through the universities and community colleges. So when you get your seasonal law enforcement certificate, a lot of times that's an add-on, so you can get the certification you need for wildland firefighting. It's called the S130, S190. It's the number or title of the class for wildland firefighting, and that's a pretty common thing. Particularly if you're working west of the Mississippi in parks, you're probably going to need to have that. So that's a certification that you can get before you start working for the Park Service a lot of times. And if you don't have it and you would like to get it, again, that's where networking with a local park or somebody near you so that you can volunteer and go through the class for free, that could work out well for you. Or even a lot of local fire departments, again, particularly in the West, will host training classes too. So, and that's just wildland firefighting basics. No matter what your role is in wildland firefighting, whether it's a support role or you're an actual firefighter, you've got to have that certification.
Okay, and I'm assuming individual parks want to see that those 2 courses on your resume if possible. That's going to help you out.
Yeah, they'll want to see that, and oftentimes it's actually a requirement to even apply. So if you don't have it, it can be a screen out factor. Okay. So if you don't have your wildland firefighting stuff, your red card is what it's commonly known as, then you're not going to be qualified for a lot of jobs, which can be rough if you're trying to get on, right? So
okay, well that's huge then. That's huge.
Yeah.
So what does this class or what does this training consist of? Is it just you creating fire lines, or what are you doing?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of that. Mostly it's how to be safe around wildland fire. So every year on the news you hear wildland firefighters who are killed fighting fire. So it's about working safely around fire, knowing how to protect yourself if the fire gets away from you, and you've got to deploy your emergency shelter. Working around helicopters is another really big thing that's very common with wildland firefighting, and also a pretty significant injury and death contributors working around helicopters. So in the end, it's about making sure you go home at the end of the fire season. That's what that class is about. Understanding behavior of fire, weather behavior, along with digging fire line a little bit too, and some of the tools that you use, depending on what your role might be as a wildland firefighter. You might learn a little more about different fire engines and apparatus, that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're both a firefighter, law enforcement, search and rescue, EMS.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're doing a lot, and it sounds like you're getting a lot of training out of the deal.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome, especially considering a lot of law enforcement, maybe not fire departments, but a lot of law enforcement are, they're tightening their belts as far as budgets are concerned, and they can't send their guys as easily to trainings as much as they'd like.
Yeah. That's an interesting point you bring up about budgets. Generally, the National Park Service is supported pretty well by a budget, even though we've got a significant maintenance backlog on just general infrastructure. But if you talk about a protection ranger, you compare what we get paid, our salary, to all the things we do, we're probably like the best deal for the taxpayer. It's pretty amazing when you think about the fact that we do law enforcement, fire, EMS, search and rescue. Those are all things that are individual jobs in a lot of cities.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're not going to get bored.
No. Yeah,
that
definitely not.
Awesome.
So it's something that kind of got built in over time, where we all sort of do those same tasks, or we do all of those tasks as one person. And a lot of cities and local governments are struggling with that now in their budget. So it's kind of interesting that we've kind of developed with that program, and you see a lot of local agencies struggling to figure out how they're going to pay their employees and pay their pensions and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And then I guess a few other things that are, I would say, pros to the job are you guys get normally take home rides, right? Which is huge.
Yeah, in some places we do. It's not uncommon for that to happen. And if you live in a park, you can usually park your patrol vehicle in your driveway because you're in the park. You're going to be available to respond even when you're off duty. So you can get a phone call from your dispatch in the middle of the night to go take care of an issue. Right now I live outside of the park that I work at, but we don't have as many rangers. So we have take-home vehicles so we can cover for emergencies after hours. So it's a perk of the job. I don't have to drive my own vehicle to work. But at the same time, it's a benefit to the government too, because they're not having to pay somebody to be at my park 24/7. However, I'm still available to go take care of any issues that happen after hours. So, it's to the government's benefit to allow me to have the take-home vehicle, and it's appreciated both ways.
Yeah, I'm sure you do enjoy it. I mean,
yeah.
It saves you a little bit of time. It saves you gas money, vehicle maintenance on your own POV. That's awesome. And then also, I'm assuming you also have a canine program too in certain parks?
Yeah, we do. So a few parks do have canine programs. So, just police dogs. So, parks where they tend to have a lot more people and maybe higher law enforcement work, we have canine programs. So, there's canine programs along the southwest border parks. So for finding drug traffickers and actual narcotics. And then in places, like Lake Mead has had a canine program. So it's used for locating narcotics and then also helping to arrest and detain people. So.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah. So if you want a canine partner, that is definitely available depending on the park. That's nice.
Yeah. Again, depending on the park, the park has to sponsor the program and they've got to demonstrate a need for it. But those exist. So if that's something you're interested in, there are places where you can go find out more about that for sure.
I would say another perk would be, and we can talk about this now, is living in the park / housing for park employees. So how does that kind of all work?
Yeah. So a lot of national parks are pretty remote. So when you talk about where you're going to live, a lot of times there's not a place. So unless you're going to commute 2 hours to work every day, you're going to need to live in government furnished housing inside the national park, which is kind of neat. You get to live inside of a national park. In our positions, oftentimes we're required to live in the park because of those travel distances. They want us to be there for emergency response. So they'll tell you, hey, you've got to live in a house. These are your choices, and this is the rental rate every month for the house. And we do pay rent to the government for those houses, and that rent is based on the local rental market as much as they can find a local rental market. They'll usually go to the next largest city and base it off of that. There's a whole formula for it, but some people think we're just kind of freeloading in the housing, but no, we pay a rent just like anybody else would live to go in the houses.
You're not living in 6-bedroom, 5-bathroom
No,
mansions.
definitely not. A lot of the houses are older. They're maintained, but they're older, and they're certainly adequate for what we're doing and the environments we're working in. But our landlords, the United States government. So.
But I'm assuming the rental rate's not horrible. I mean, it's not astronomical. It's reasonable.
Yeah, and like I said, it's comparable to the next local rental market. So, if you live near, I don't know, you're a couple hours from whatever big city, that's what they're going to kind of rate those off of. So, and they make some adjustments here and there for different things. Some places, they'll bill you for propane use. Like there's one big propane tank, but you've got a meter, so you get billed for that too. A couple other things. So you pay for everything, but it's definitely fair. So generally speaking, the housing program is supposed to sustain itself. So the rental rates, you pay when you live in a house is supposed to pay for the maintenance and care of that house. Generally speaking, that's the idea.
Okay. And then let's say I have 2 kids or 4 kids. Do I get a bigger house based on that, or is it just availability?
Yeah, so that kind of depends on the park a little bit. Often there's sort of a bidding process. So you fill in a form because we're the government, we're pretty good at forms. You fill out a form saying, okay, I've got a wife, 2 kids, a dog, and only one of us works or 2 of us work. And these are the houses. Of the houses that are available in this park, these are the houses that I would like to bid on in this order. And then they look at everyone who's bidding on houses, and then they will try to get you the house that you want. But they take all of your criteria generally and sort of give you a rating. And so if there's, say a 4-bedroom house in the park, that was built for larger families, but if you're a single person, you don't want to rent a 4-bedroom house. It's pretty expensive. But if you're a really, say you're a higher paid employee, and you've got, I don't know, a single parent working in the park, it's one income, they don't necessarily need a 4-bedroom house either. They may actually give that larger house to the single person who makes more money because they can afford the rent. So it's kind of a, it's a bidding process to try to keep things level and fair. That way, just trying to keep it fair. It's a hard thing to manage, I'm sure. Superintendents have to deal with it all the time.
Yeah. So let's talk about pay. Okay. Your federal government, you have things what are called GS levels, right? So you guys are paid. How does pay work within the federal government, and how do you get paid?
Yeah. So as a protection ranger, a law enforcement ranger, we fall under the GL pay scale, which is the General Law Enforcement Pay Scale. It's similar to the GS pay scale, which is the General Schedule Pay Scale. We have a little bit of a pay bump because of the arduous work that we do, and there's a certain risk with our job. So they pay you a little more for that, which is kind of nice. So starting out seasonally, you just got out of your seasonal academy, you got your brand new certificate in your hand, you're going to your first part for your first seasonal job. You're probably going to start as a GL5, which if you put that in terms of an annual salary, is somewhere around $40,000 a year. And I think that's what I looked at. Yeah, about $40,000 a year as a GL5. So that's pretty comparable to most starting like police department salaries these days. So if you go to a city, that's about what you would see starting for a city. As you move through the ranks, get a little more experience, you're going to start stepping up in that pay scale a little bit, that pay grade. So you'll go from a GL5 to a GL7, and then eventually full performance is a GL9. And a brand new GL9 is going to make somewhere around $50,000 a year base salary. And you have a lot of overtime opportunities too, so you can usually get that up a little more without even having to try. Just the job itself brings a lot of overtime. So that's a pretty typical salary that you could expect. So.
Okay, and then anything beyond a GL9 would be a supervisory role, and
Correct.
That would be where you actually have to apply for an additional job, correct? A supervisory job.
Yeah, you'd be looking at a supervisor position, somewhere around a GL11, 12, and then you start getting up into the upper management of, like the 13s.
Okay. And then how long would it take you to, let's say you wanted to move up, you cut your teeth on a couple of different parks, you enjoy the job you want to stay in, but you do want to earn a little bit more money, a little more experience, take on more responsibility. So how long typically will it take you to move from a GL9, a law enforcement ranger, to a supervisory position? How long will that typically take?
Yeah, the Park Service is in an interesting position right now where we've got a lot of people who are coming eligible to retire. So it's, in the coming year or two, it's going to probably be easier than it has been to move up. I would say at the earliest, you're going to see somebody go from a field position to a supervisor position, though, is probably no earlier than 5 years on the job. And it's usually longer than that you see people going from a 9 to 11. And a lot of that's based off of experience. Some people might be working at a GL9 level and not be thinking about becoming a supervisor till further down the road. Some people start working at a GL9 and they're already thinking about being a supervisor, so they take those opportunities to take on supervisory roles. Like if your supervisor's out sick or on maternity leave or on vacation, you might say, hey, I would like to be the acting supervisor. Is that okay while you're gone? So little things like that kind of build your resume, build your skill base, your skill sets to move up sooner than later if you want. But I wouldn't expect anything less than 5 years for most people, and that's probably moving quick.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the first couple of years, heck, you're just learning the job anyway and getting comfortable with it. So
yeah, you're still just trying to figure out which way is up in a lot of
yeah, exactly. Much less lead people confidently,
Right.
Okay. So we can just touch real quickly. So what's the difference between you guys and the U.S. Park Police, the guys that wear blue uniforms?
Yeah, so our uniform, green pants, gray shirt, a pretty traditional Park Service look. Uniform hasn't changed much in quite a while. But if you go to some metropolitan urban areas like San Francisco, Washington D.C., New York City, you'll see some different folks running around in blue uniforms, like the traditional police uniform. And yeah, those guys, they're U.S. Park Police. And, we work for the same agency. Our mission is typically the same, but those guys, they work in urban cities and an urban environment. So they go through a different training program once they go through FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. And, we go through a land management police training course. They go through a uniform police training course, which is geared more towards urban patrol. So, even though we have a lot of similarities, there are some components of our jobs that are different. So there's a need to have U.S. Park Police trained to do urban enforcement. And I'm not sure on the history of how it came about that we separated between the two, why there's a difference. But I understand the need for it. it makes sense in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, but you guys are essentially sister agencies. So if you wanted to work in, say, San Francisco along the Golden Gate Bridge, that's a separate agency to apply for. If you want to work in Grand Tetons, that's the United States Park Service.
So the U.S. Park Police, they're still employed by the National Park Service. So
Okay.
we're under the same agency, but basically we have different job descriptions. So if I wanted to go work for U.S. Park Police, it's pretty likely that I would have to go back to FLETC and go through a different training program. So they may accept my training and experience as I have it, but it would probably be likely that I have to go back and at least take sort of a bridge course to make up any gap in training that they have that I don't, or vice versa.
Okay. So listening to all this, seeing all the perks of the job, the pay, the housing, the different hats that you guys wear. Let's say I really want to do this job. I'm really excited, pumped up, motivated. So where do I go to even look for these jobs, find these jobs?
Yeah. So that's the trick. It's kind of weird. A lot of people try to get on with the Park Service and they're like, how do I? I don't know how. The first place I would suggest to start looking is usajobs.gov. Generally speaking, that's sort of the hiring catch-all for the federal government. So you can go to usajobs.gov, you can type in National Park Service, and you can see all the National Park Service jobs that are available today. You can click on anything that you're interested in, and you can see what the job requirements are, what the qualifications would be, and any screen-out factors. So, what would be required for you to even apply for the position. So that would be the first place I would look. The next place would be the Association of National Park Rangers website. That'd be anpr.org. They have a hiring and training tab. If you go down to the bottom of their website, they've got a little box down there you can click on. It's got some great information on writing a federal government resume, which is very different from the private sector, along with different ways to get some certifications and training, particularly if you're interested in going the law enforcement route. That's where you can find the list of community colleges and a couple of universities that offer the certificate program to get your seasonal law enforcement training, which is usually a 10 or 12-week training program at one of those schools. So those would be the two places I would start, but I would never undermine the importance of networking. Going to meet park rangers at a park near you, scheduling a time for ride-alongs to go see what they do. Go meet people and ask those folks questions about how they got to where they're going, and do it in person. That's really important, especially if you want to work at those parks. So get your name out there and be heard.
Okay. So it sounds like you apply for a seasonal training, which is about a semester, I believe.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay. And then you get yourself a seasonal job, develop a name for yourself, and then start looking at more permanent positions out there, right? After you develop your experience, your confidence, your relationships, contacts, and that's your route to being hired by the Park Service, correct?
Yeah, and it can be a long process, and it can be frustrating, and it can be hard too, because if you're at a point in your life where you're a little more established and you're talking about doing this, you're going to have some difficult decisions to make, and what you're going to do, because seasonal employment by nature is temporary, right? So, if you've got a family that depends on your income, you need to make some decisions before you quit your day job, that kind of thing, because seasonal appointments end and there's no guarantee that you'll get another seasonal job right after. So you have to do a lot of soul seeking, soul searching, and what you want to do, and be sure of it before you make a big decision like that. It's tough. It's easier when you're younger, but as you get older, it can be hard.
Mhm. Well, just like everything, sometimes doors start closing on you when you're in your 30s or 40s.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, and that's another thing is, if you want a permanent job, you've got to be permanent before you're age 37.
Okay.
So that's the same with all federal law enforcement positions and firefighting. You've got to be in a permanent position before the age 37, and that's for retirement purposes mostly. But it's not a young man's job, and you need to be able to kind of stick with it, and having to start when you're younger is going to help you when you're older in the career. Some people have a hard time when they're older getting in, so and that just can depend on the person. It's not against any one person or anything, but that age restriction is generally to meet the retirement requirements.
Okay. And then how long will it take? Let's say I apply for that position, the position application period closes. How long typically will it take between that time and the time I might get a job offer?
Yeah, so a lot of it depends on how many people applied for the position. So, believe it or not, there is a person who goes through and reviews your resume and makes sure you're qualified for the position. So if you've got 100 applicants for one job, they've got to go through 100 resumes. A resume can be anywhere from like 5 to 15 pages long. So they've got to dig through all the information on your resume along with everyone else. So it can take, 2 or 3 weeks up to a month to hear anything back from OPM, who usually does the ratings on your resume. And they'll contact you by email to let you know if you're going to move on to the next stage in the hiring process. So you'll usually get a referral notice if you're going to move on to the hiring officials list.
Don't get discouraged, right? I mean, don't get discouraged. Don't write it off.
Don't get discouraged. It does take time, and don't expect to get the first job you apply for either. There's a little bit of a learning curve in the application process, but also there are a lot of people applying for jobs too. So you just have to keep that in mind. Don't apply for one job and be hopeful. Pick several jobs that you would be interested in. Decide if those are places you want to go work, and then apply to several jobs, not just one.
Okay. And is there anything that I can put on my resume or my application that would really help me out? You did mention the firefighting certs are a good thing to have on there. Is there anything else that the hiring panel might be looking for?
Yeah, so a lot of things they're looking for is if you're going to be a good fit for the park. So anything that would help you look good for that park that you're applying for is going to be to your benefit. So if you're applying to a place that has a lot of snow in the wintertime and you happen to really enjoy cross-country skiing, even if you've never been paid to do that, that's going to be a good thing to put on your resume, right? So you need to think about those things that are unique to that park, and if you have skills that would really do well in that park, to make sure you have those listed in there. Because if you're at a place where there's a lot of cross-country patrols, skiing in the wintertime, you're going to look a lot better than somebody who doesn't have skiing experience. Somebody who grew up in Florida and has never been on a set of skis.
Tripping all over themselves.
Even though you may be equally qualified in every other way, that one skill might be the thing that sets you apart. So, getting to know that park and what might make you a good fit there are good things to list. Along with your interests in general, can mean a lot. And if you like to play with technology, there are parks where they use a lot of technology. If you are really good at identifying ducks, there are places where hunting's allowed, so you need to be able to identify duck species and do hunting patrols and that sort of thing related to ducks. So little things like that can help you. When you are getting ready to talk to a panel for an interview, a lot of times you have panel interviews. Sometimes it's just one supervisor who's doing the interview. Make sure you're ready to talk about your favorite aspects of the job or your least favorite aspects of the job, or what you think those might be if it's your first position. Those are going to mean a lot too, because if you really like EMS and it's a heavy EMS park, that's going to be a really good thing to talk about. So just have those thoughts in the back of your mind.
Okay. And then once you do get hired, it's a little bit unique with you guys as far as sending you guys to FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Academy. It's not immediately after getting hired, right? It might take you a year or two.
Yeah, so most federal agencies with law enforcement programs, they're going to hire their law enforcement officer and pretty quickly send them to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. We're unique in that we have seasonal employees first, right? But they've already been through a seasonal academy. So they're qualified to be law enforcement officers from the day they're hired, just off of their certificate. So as long as they meet some basic requirements when you start working seasonally, you can pass a drug test, you can pass a pretty extensive medical exam, and your physical test, your physical efficiency battery. As long as you can pass those things, you're good to go for your seasonal job. Well, that seasonal certificate's going to carry over into your first permanent job. And because there's so many of us going through FLETC, there seems to be sort of this, there's a really long wait list. So sometimes it can be up to 2 years before you actually go to FLETC to get kind of the rest of your training, which more or less qualifies you to do certain types of investigations in the park and investigating more complex crimes.
But I would think that the pro would be here is you've already got 2 years of experience under your belt and you're going to a training academy. Yes, you're going to be learning stuff, but a lot of it might be, I've already done this before, so I don't have as much stress.
Heck yeah, it's a huge help to have already had experience doing your job when you're going to an academy for basic training. Huge help. I would say park rangers do quite well among other agencies there because we have that experience already. Don't get me wrong, I know when I went through, I had developed a bad habit or two that I had to kind of get beat out of me a little bit, but that was a good thing about going is I got finely tuned and I came out a better ranger for it when I went through. But yeah, having already been through, it was a huge help. So.
Yeah, confidence level, studying, all that. I mean, it must be a lot nicer. And plus, it's a decent location, right, for this FLETC Academy?
Yeah, so we go to, there's several FLETCs throughout the United States, and I think even internationally they've got one or two. We go to the FLETC in Brunswick, Georgia. So we're kind of on the Georgia coast, so it's not a bad place to be. On the weekend, you can kind of go down to Florida a little bit, or southern Georgia, hang out on the beach. There's some great places you can go hang out. Other parks. The food's really good. So it's not a bad place to be. There are definitely
worse places out there.
Worse places to be when you're talking about going to one of the training centers. So it's not bad. So
okay. And so difficulty-wise, you're not as stressed out. You're doing driving. What else are you doing as far as within your academy? What other topics are you being taught?
We cover a lot of law enforcement basics. So the driving, shooting, defending yourself if you're in a fight. That happens to us too. So Making sure you can win any kind of physical altercation you're in. So a lot of mat time, in the mat room. And then a lot of classroom work, a lot of legal classes to understand constitutional law and laws that affect the job that we do. So, getting into natural resource law is really important because we're a natural resource agency. So understanding how we can use those to protect our national parks. And then there's a lot of scenario-based training where you are using what you've learned in the classroom to kind of hone in your skills a little bit. So a lot of role-playing scenarios that are pretty realistic. So,
okay. And difficulty-wise here, I mean, you're probably studying a couple hours a night maybe, but you're not poring over a law book, for 16 hours a day.
Yeah. It's a basic academy, so you're learning legal basics. Don't get me wrong, you need to study. There's a lot of studying that needs to happen. We had study groups. We met on a pretty regular basis. So don't take it lightly. You're not going to come out of FLETC as a lawyer, but you will definitely have a good understanding for the law enforcement role in our legal system. So, it's you aren't going to have to learn every case law in the United States, but you're going to have a really strong understanding for what you should and shouldn't be doing on the job.
Okay. Well, cool, man. Again, thanks, Dylan. Appreciate you coming out and sitting down and talking with me here. Anything else you want to talk about? Mention to anybody before we sign off here?
No, guys. I mean, I've said it a couple of times already, but if you're interested in this career, go find somebody who's doing it. Go visit a national park this summer or anytime you can, and just ask some questions and find out if it's something you really want to do. That being said, it's a great career. It gives you a lot of opportunities, and you get to see our country and travel around and see different places. So it's a great opportunity. I would encourage anybody who's interested to learn more.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks again, man, for sitting down and talking with us, and you stay safe out there, okay?
Thank you. It was great talking to you.
So if you like what you heard today, please like and subscribe below, and also check us out at collegealternative.net. So stay tuned for next week. Thanks, guys.